What if humans could breathe underwater? The day the ocean opened to humanity. For most of human history, the ocean has been a boundary. We can sail across its surface, dive beneath it for a few minutes, explore its depths inside machines. But without equipment, the underwater world remains closed to us. A human being can survive for weeks without food, days without water, but only minutes without air. Now imagine waking up tomorrow and discovering that something inside the human body has changed. When water enters your mouth and nose, you do not choke, you do not panic. Your lungs do not fill and fail. Instead, your body begins extracting oxygen directly from the water. You can breathe beneath the surface as naturally as you breathe on land. And every other human on Earth can do the same. At first, nobody would believe it. The discovery might begin with an accident. A swimmer is pulled beneath the waves. Seconds pass. Then minutes. Rescuers dive into the water, expecting the worst. But the swimmer opens their eyes. They are calm, alive, and breathing. Across the world, similar stories begin appearing. Children remain underwater in swimming pools far longer than should be possible. Divers remove their oxygen tanks and continue exploring. People step into lakes, rivers, and oceans, discovering that water no longer feels like an enemy. Within hours, beaches would fill with crowds. Millions of people would test the impossible ability for themselves. Some would walk into shallow water and lower their faces beneath the surface. They would inhale carefully. The first breath might feel strange, heavy, cold. Water would move through newly developed organs inside the chest, neck, or lungs. Oxygen dissolved in the water would pass into the bloodstream. Carbon dioxide would be released back into the sea. For the first time, the human body would function like the body of a fish. But breathing underwater would not automatically make humans perfect ocean creatures. Water contains far less available oxygen than air. Fish survive because their gills have enormous surface areas and constantly move water across thin membranes. For a human being to remain active underwater, the body would need a powerful new respiratory system. Our hearts might beat differently. Blood chemistry could change. Special muscles might force large amounts of water through internal gills. Our bodies would need to extract oxygen with extraordinary efficiency. Even then, breathing would require more energy than it does on land. A person resting underwater might feel comfortable, but swimming quickly could become exhausting. The faster the muscles worked, the more oxygen they would demand. In warm, oxygen-rich water, humans might remain active for hours. In stagnant or polluted water, breathing could become difficult. Some lakes contain very little dissolved oxygen. Certain parts of the ocean are known as dead zones, where oxygen levels are too low to support most animal life. A human entering one of these areas could begin suffocating even while surrounded by water. The ability to breathe underwater would not mean that all water was safe. Pollution would become an even greater danger. Oil, chemicals, sewage, microplastics, and toxic algae could pass directly through the new respiratory system. A person might breathe in contaminated water just as someone on land breathes polluted air. Underwater masks could still be necessary, not to provide oxygen, but to filter dangerous substances. Clean water would become both a place to live and a source of breath. During the first few days, coastlines would become centers of excitement. Families would swim together without fear of drowning. People who had never learned to swim might simply walk along the seafloor in shallow water. Tourists would explore coral reefs without oxygen tanks. Divers could remain below the surface for hours. Underwater photography would explode in popularity. Shipwrecks, caves, reefs, and ancient ruins would suddenly become accessible to ordinary people. The ocean would no longer belong only to trained divers and submarines. It would become the largest new frontier in human history. But this freedom would create new dangers. Breathing underwater would not protect us from pressure. At sea level, the atmosphere presses against the human body with a force we barely notice. Underwater, pressure increases rapidly with depth. Every 10 meters adds approximately another atmosphere of pressure. At 30 meters, the body experiences several times the pressure found at the surface. At hundreds of meters, unprotected human tissues could be damaged. Air-filled spaces inside the ears, sinuses, and body would still be vulnerable. Even with underwater breathing, humans could not simply swim to the bottom of the ocean. Most of the deep sea would remain beyond our natural limits. Temperature would also restrict exploration. Water removes heat from the body much faster than air. A person in cold water could develop hypothermia even while breathing comfortably. Near tropical coastlines, long underwater journeys might be possible. In polar seas, humans would still need insulated suits. The body could breathe, but it could still freeze. Vision would be another challenge. Human eyes are designed to focus light through air. Underwater, everything appears blurry without a mask because water changes how light bends through the eye. If humanity's transformation affected only breathing, people would still need goggles to see clearly. Communication would also be difficult. Human speech depends on air moving across the vocal cords. Underwater, spoken words would become distorted or impossible to understand. People might develop hand signals, light signals, or electronic communication devices. Entire new underwater languages could emerge. A civilization beneath the waves would not sound like the world above. It might be quieter, filled with gestures, vibrations, lights, and movement. Within weeks, professional diving would change completely. Scuba tanks would become unnecessary for ordinary depths. Rescue teams could search flooded buildings without running out of air. Firefighters could enter submerged tunnels. Scientists could observe marine animals for far longer than before. Archaeologists could study underwater ruins directly. Repair crews could maintain bridges, pipelines, ships, and offshore structures with fewer limitations. Fishing communities would transform. Fishermen could follow nets beneath the surface. They could inspect the health of fish populations directly. But illegal fishing could also become easier. Poachers might enter protected reefs without boats or diving equipment. Rare species could be hunted in places that were previously difficult to reach. The ocean would become more accessible to explorers and to criminals. Borders would become harder to defend. Today, oceans separate countries. Coastlines can be monitored through ports, ships, radar, and aircraft. But if people could breathe underwater, someone could approach a coastline beneath the surface. Smugglers might transport goods through underwater routes. Military forces could move silently across the seafloor. Ports, ships, and coastal installations would face new security threats. Governments would quickly begin creating underwater patrols. Navies would recruit soldiers trained to remain beneath the surface for days. New detection systems would search for human movement underwater. The sea would become a new battlefield. At the same time, ordinary people would begin asking a more peaceful question. If humans can breathe underwater, why should we continue living only on land? The oceans cover more than 70% of Earth's surface. For thousands of years, humanity has crowded into the smaller portion that rises above the waves. Cities have expanded across forests, deserts, valleys, and mountains. Now, an enormous new world would be available. Engineers would design the first true underwater neighborhoods. Not sealed laboratories filled with air, not expensive research stations, but places where people could move freely through the surrounding water. Homes might be built into cliffs, reefs, or shallow seafloors. Entrances would remain open to the ocean. Residents could swim directly into streets and public spaces. Buildings would need to resist currents, corrosion, storms, and marine growth. Rooms intended for eating, sleeping, and using electronics might still contain air. But travel between buildings could happen through water. The first underwater city would probably not be built in the deepest ocean. It would rise in a calm, shallow region close to land. Sunlight would still reach the seafloor. Temperatures would be relatively warm. Construction materials and supplies could be transported easily from the coast. Solar panels might float on the surface. Cables could provide electricity from land. Food could be grown in underwater farms. Seaweed, shellfish, and fish could become major sources of nutrition. At first, the city might hold only scientists, engineers, and wealthy adventurers. But soon, thousands would want to move beneath the waves. Some would be attracted by beauty. Others by cheaper space. Others by the dream of escaping crowded cities and polluted land. Humanity would begin expanding downward. Yet every new settlement would place pressure on fragile marine ecosystems. Coral reefs could be damaged by construction. Noise could disturb whales and dolphins. Artificial lights could confuse marine animals. Waste could pollute the surrounding water. For millions of years, the ocean developed without permanent human cities. Now, the most invasive species on Earth would be moving in. Breathing underwater would open the ocean to humanity, but it would also open the ocean to everything humanity brings with it. Industry, pollution, war, tourism, ambition, and greed. For the first time, the question would not be whether humans could survive beneath the sea. It would be whether the sea could survive humans. The civilization beneath the waves. 10 years after humans gained the ability to breathe underwater, the coastlines of the world look completely different. Shallow seas are filled with new structures. Underwater roads follow the seafloor. Transparent tunnels connect coastal cities to submerged settlements. Lights glow beneath the waves at night. From the surface, entire neighborhoods appear as shining patterns in the dark water. Human civilization is no longer limited to the land. The first underwater cities would likely be small. but they would grow quickly. Housing shortages in crowded coastal regions could push millions toward the sea. Instead of constructing taller buildings, cities could extend beneath nearby bays and continental shelves. Apartment complexes might be anchored to the seafloor. Public spaces could be surrounded by coral gardens. Schools might contain both air-filled classrooms and open-water training areas. Children born underwater would learn to swim before they learned to walk. They might feel more comfortable moving in 3 dimensions than walking across a flat surface. On land, streets direct people forward, backward, left, or right. Underwater, humans could also move upward and downward. Architecture would change. Doors could be placed in floors, walls, and ceilings. Buildings might have no fixed ground level. A person could leave home through an opening above the roof and swim directly to work. Elevators would become less important. Staircases could disappear from some structures. Cities would be designed for bodies that floated. Furniture would need to be secured. Tools would be shaped to prevent them from drifting away. Food preparation would still be easier inside air-filled rooms. But transportation, recreation, and many forms of work could take place entirely in the water. Clothing would also change. Heavy fabrics would be impractical. People might wear streamlined suits that retained heat and protected the skin from salt, parasites, jellyfish, and sharp coral. Fashion could involve glowing materials, fins, water-resistant jewelry, and fabrics that moved elegantly with currents. Hair might be cut shorter or tied tightly. Underwater appearance would become its own culture. New sports would emerge. Athletes could race through complex 3-dimensional courses. Teams might compete to move objects through underwater arenas. People could play games that combined swimming, diving, climbing, and controlled floating. Traditional sports would remain popular on land. But a new generation might consider football or basketball strangely limited because players could move only across a flat field. Human transportation would be transformed. For short distances, people could swim. For longer journeys, underwater vehicles would pull passengers through the sea. These vehicles might resemble small submarines without sealed cabins. Riders could enter and exit while the vehicle remained underwater. Currents would become highways. Computer systems could calculate the fastest routes through moving water. Coastal cities might build underwater stations where travelers waited inside protected zones. However, swimming across entire oceans would remain impossible for most people. Humans would still need food, warmth, rest, and protection from pressure. Storms could create dangerous currents. Large predators would remain a concern in some regions. The open ocean would still be vast and unforgiving. Breathing underwater would make us more capable. It would not make us invincible. The global economy would change as access to marine resources expanded. Underwater mining companies would search for metals on the seafloor. Deposits containing manganese, cobalt, nickel, and other valuable materials would become easier to reach. Governments and corporations would compete for ownership. Underwater workers could inspect and operate machines directly. Mining could provide materials for batteries, electronics, and construction, but it could also destroy ecosystems that science barely understands. The deep sea contains species humans have never seen. Some live only around hydrothermal vents, others grow and reproduce extremely slowly. A single mining operation could erase an ecosystem before it was even discovered. Oil and gas industries might also expand temporarily. Workers could repair pipelines more easily. New offshore facilities could be built farther from land. But underwater civilizations would need enormous amounts of clean energy. Solar energy could be collected near the surface. Tidal currents could drive turbines. Waves could power generators. Geothermal energy might be harvested near volcanic regions. The ocean itself could become one of humanity's largest energy systems. Food production would undergo an equally dramatic transformation. Seaweed farms could cover large underwater areas. Seaweed grows quickly and requires no freshwater, fertilizer, or farmland. It could provide food, medicine, fuel, and building materials. Shellfish farms could produce protein while filtering water. Fish farming might expand into enormous controlled regions. Underwater gardeners could maintain crops directly. Instead of clearing forests for agriculture, some societies might shift part of food production into the sea. This could reduce pressure on land, but poorly managed farms could spread disease, waste, and invasive species. As always, technology would create both solutions and new problems. Medicine would need to adapt to underwater life. Human skin exposed to water for long periods could weaken or become infected. The body might lose heat. Salt could irritate tissues. Doctors would study how constant immersion affected bones, muscles, circulation, and the senses. People who lived underwater permanently might develop physical differences over generations. Natural selection and biotechnology could slowly create two forms of humanity. Those adapted to land. and those adapted to the sea. Underwater populations might develop thicker layers of body fat for warmth. Their eyes could become better at focusing in water. Their fingers and toes might become slightly webbed. Their blood could carry oxygen more efficiently. Their bodies might tolerate greater pressure. These changes would take many generations naturally, but genetic engineering could accelerate them. Parents living in deep-sea cities might choose modifications that help their children survive. Larger internal gills. Improved night vision. Resistance to cold. Enhanced hearing through water. Humanity could begin deliberately transforming itself into an aquatic species. Eventually, some underwater people might struggle to live comfortably on land. Their bodies could become dependent on moisture. Their respiratory organs might work more efficiently in water than in air. Land and ocean populations could grow culturally and biologically separate. They might speak differently, eat different foods, celebrate different traditions, and develop different ideas about territory and freedom. Political conflict would follow. Who owns the ocean? Today, nations control waters near their coastlines, while large parts of the open ocean are treated as international space. But permanent underwater cities would challenge those rules. A city built far from land might declare itself independent. Corporations could establish private settlements near valuable resources. Countries might expand claims over the continental shelf. Disputes over fishing, minerals, and energy could become underwater border conflicts. Military technology would evolve rapidly. Soldiers could hide among reefs. Saboteurs could approach ships from below. Underwater drones would patrol city borders. Submarines would no longer be mysterious machines passing through an empty environment. They would move through regions populated by civilians. War beneath the sea could threaten entire ecosystems. An explosion near an underwater city would send powerful pressure waves through the water. Chemical contamination could spread through currents. Destroying a habitat's heating or oxygen filtering systems could force thousands to evacuate. The ocean might become humanity's greatest new home, and its most dangerous new battlefield. Yet underwater life could also change the way humans see the planet. People living among coral reefs, fish, whales, and changing currents would experience nature directly. They would see plastic waste drifting past their homes. They would watch coral bleaching happen outside their windows. They would notice declining fish populations and warming water immediately. Environmental destruction would no longer feel distant. The ocean would not be a place shown in documentaries. It would be the neighborhood. Underwater citizens might become the strongest defenders of marine ecosystems. They could establish vast protected regions, restore coral reefs, remove abandoned fishing nets, track endangered animals, clean polluted coastlines. For the first time, humanity might truly understand the world beneath the surface. The ocean contains mountains taller than those on land, trenches deep enough to hide entire ranges, volcanoes, rivers of dense saltwater, forests of kelp, and millions of species. Many remain undiscovered. Humans who could breathe underwater would find creatures that have never been photographed. New medicines could be developed from marine organisms. New biological systems could inspire materials, machines, and forms of energy. The ocean could become the greatest scientific laboratory in history. Archaeology would also enter a new age. Ancient settlements submerged by rising seas could be explored directly. Thousands of shipwrecks would be studied. Lost cargo, weapons, artwork, and human remains would be discovered. The seafloor would reveal forgotten trade routes and hidden chapters of history. Stories once treated as legends might be connected to real ruins beneath the waves. But treasure hunting would also increase. Historic sites could be looted before scientists reached them. The ocean's past would become another resource humanity fought to control. After several generations, Earth might appear divided into two connected worlds. The land would contain forests, farms, deserts, roads, and traditional cities. The ocean would contain floating farms, submerged towers, research stations, transport routes, and glowing settlements. People would move between them as easily as we now move between countries. A child born on land might visit an underwater city for school. A marine engineer might spend months beneath the surface and return home for holidays. Some families could have members living permanently in both environments. The ocean would no longer represent the edge of the map. It would become part of everyday human geography. Would this make humanity safer? Perhaps. Underwater settlements could reduce pressure on crowded land. They could provide new food and energy resources. They might survive certain disasters that destroyed surface cities, but they would face their own threats. Earthquakes, underwater landslides, volcanic eruptions, tsunamis, pollution, pressure failure, and changes in ocean temperature. Climate change could make some underwater regions dangerously warm or acidic. Melting ice could alter currents. Declining oxygen levels could threaten humans, whose new organs depended on dissolved oxygen. Even an aquatic civilization would still depend on the health of the planet. The ability to breathe underwater would feel like the ultimate freedom. No fear of drowning, no oxygen tanks, no barrier between humanity and the largest environment on Earth. But entering the ocean would come with responsibility. Humans have already transformed nearly every part of the land. We have cut forests, redirected rivers, built cities, and changed the atmosphere. The ocean has escaped some of that transformation only because it is difficult for us to enter. Remove that difficulty, and the last great wilderness could disappear. The greatest question would not be what we discovered beneath the waves. It would be what we chose to build there. We could create clean cities powered by tides, restore reefs, protect marine life, and learn to live within an ecosystem rather than above it. Or we could repeat every mistake made on land. Mining, pollution, overcrowding, war, and destruction. Humans breathing underwater would not automatically create a better civilization. It would simply give humanity more territory, more resources, more knowledge, and more choices. Today, when we stand beside the ocean, we look across its surface and imagine what lies below. We see only waves, but beneath them is most of our planet. A world larger than all the continents combined. A world filled with darkness, pressure, beauty, and life. For now, we can visit that world only briefly, but imagine taking one final breath on the shore, walking into the sea, allowing the water to rise above your head, and realizing that you never need to return to the surface. The ocean would no longer be a boundary, it would be home.